Welcome to Assembly Calendar. I'm Mike Friesen. With us for our program today, Assemblyman Mike Fitzpatrick. Mike Fitzpatrick represents the 7th Assembly District in New York State. The 7th District includes Suffolk County. We want to thank you folks in Suffolk County, Nassau County, wherever you may be watching this program today, anywhere on Long Island. Thank you for joining us for our program. Mike Fitzpatrick, always a pleasure to have you here.
Mike, what a way to start the week with you.
Well,
it's the best.
We are taping this program first thing on a Monday morning at the state capitol. Happy Monday, I like to say.
That's right.
Oh, good golly.
Hey, what a business. What a business.
You know, it's a great place to be. Always lots of excitement, interesting things to talk about, and that's what we're going to try to do for the next 15 minutes is talk about them.
There's a lot to talk about. Absolutely.
We'll start with what I suppose is probably the number one issue on the legislative agenda right now. Now that the budget's done, all the focus has turned to what's left to do. The governor and the lieutenant governor, both traveling the state right now, pushing, whether it's in Long Island, whether it's in Syracuse, Rochester, Buffalo, their agenda. They've got a 3-item agenda that they're pushing pretty heavily right now.
I'm with them on 2 out of the 3.
As the song goes, that ain't bad, right?
It's the tax cap, it's ethics reform, and gay marriage. And I'm with the governor on the tax cap. I'm with the governor on the ethics reform and gay marriage. Let's just not go there. I think it's for me. I think it's just the wrong thing to do, and it's just there are very real societal impacts by doing this. And so we'll put that one to the side. The tax cap is right now the most important issue, as well as and right behind it is ethics reform. The governor and the lieutenant governor are traveling the state. I had the pleasure of visiting Dowling College on Thursday to listen to Lieutenant Governor Duffy give his presentation, advocating for the passage of those 3 measures and the reasons why. He's very good. Lieutenant Governor Duffy is former mayor of Rochester and knows his stuff. Great guy, and very persuasive. On 2 out of the 3, as far as I'm concerned. But the tax cap, we had a rally here on Tuesday.
Well, it was interesting because you're talking about the lieutenant governor being in Long Island. You had New York City, or
governor was out in
you had
Buffalo.
Long Island advocates who made the trip to Albany at the same time. Everybody kind of talking on the same thing. And it seems to be generating an awful lot of interest among the taxpayers of the state. It's one of those things that they get, they understand, and they like the sound of.
One of the frustrations is that it has wide support. The polls show it has support. Certainly my constituents support it. I have always supported it. In fact, Mike, the Assembly Republican Conference was presented the first bill, filed the first bill, and that was my bill, which was the original tax cap bill. So I'm pretty proud of that and the fact that we were able to put this issue on the table and get it in play. I'm here 9 years, and for 9 years, property taxes have been the number one issue for people. Unfunded mandates have been the number one issue, yet nothing has happened. No one is willing to come to the table and say, gee, I'll put this mandate on the table, or let's put a 2% tax cap on the table. Why won't anyone volunteer, if you will, to put their issue on the table? Well, that's just not how Albany works. And the governor is providing a level of leadership here that is impressive. He's going to have to kick it up a notch to make it happen. But the 2% tax cap is absolutely necessary to help people stay in their homes. We are losing people, we're losing jobs, we're losing industry. A recent poll was announced that those under 30 New York residents are overwhelmingly looking to leave New York because of the high cost of living, the lack of opportunity. There was a very interesting article in our daily paper Newsday on Long Island in the business section about what are the strengths of Long Island, and we have significant strengths: our parks, our beaches, our proximity to airports, travel, the city of New York, etc., good schools. The negatives: high taxes, lack of affordable housing. Companies are having very real difficulty attracting younger employees to come here. That's a recipe for stagnation and ultimately decline.
So some citizens from Long Island say, we're going to come to Albany and we're going to hold a rally and say, we really like this idea of the property tax cap for the very reasons you just enumerated. You speak before this group. Are you surprised that there are opposing voices shouting out to be heard against the tax cap? We're going to show some of your remarks that you made there.
It was interesting. Before I went downstairs to the well to speak to the rally in favor of the tax cap, an hour before that, I had a meeting in my office with members of the teachers union, and they are up lobbying. Of course, they want extension of the millionaire's tax, and they want tax increases. They're not willing to stop spending. So as I was speaking, you could hear the voices in the background, and succeeding speakers were heckled by the teachers union. So it's really getting the temperature's rising on this issue. And what's key? Well, if you go to
let's do it now. Let's do it now, and then we'll come back and we'll I know right where you want to go with this.
Okay.
Let's take a look at some of the remarks made, and you'll get a little bit of the flavor as to how the heat is getting turned up here at the state capitol on the issue of a property tax cap.
And for 9 years, property taxes have been the #1 issue for my constituents. For 9 years, unfunded mandates have been the #1 problem for our school districts and municipalities. Yet nothing seems to happen. Why? There's no incentive for any interest group to put their mandate on the table. Here, I volunteer. Let's put this on the table. I'll give this up. It just doesn't happen that way. If you don't have a mechanism to force that change, you will never get change. And that's why the tax cap is so critically important. We need it. We must have it. It's doable, because if we don't move forward in this area, the financial pressure felt by every school district, every county, town, village, and the state itself is going to continue to get worse. I make the argument that the fiscal crisis that we're confronting is worse than people realize, whether it's the cost of health care, the cost of pensions, the rising cost of doing business. The situation continues to get worse. I come from Long Island, and between 2 counties, ladies and gentlemen, we have 901 taxing entities. 2 counties, 13 towns, villages, school districts, park districts, lighting districts, sanitation districts, water districts, library districts, and on and on. And many of them have $195,000 executive directors and $150,000 deputy executive directors, patronage. Everyone's in the pension system, and we wonder why the costs go up. The tax cap will drive change. And if we don't have it, we'll be here next year with the same problem, asking the same questions, demanding the same results, and nothing will happen. Please stay firm.
You got off kind of easy there, because that was a pretty vocal crowd. As you said, there were hecklers there. They seemed to be from the teachers' unions. Who wasn't?
They were from the teachers' union. It was all the teachers' union.
Yeah,
all of them.
They were in town that day, and
they were the only group heckling.
It kind of got testy there a little bit.
That's okay. And one of the frustrations I'd like to share with the audience, quite frankly, is that there has been criticism about the leadership here in Albany, in the Assembly and in the Senate, that, quite frankly, neither side wants to see a tax cap happen. The Senate majority passed the governor's bill. The Assembly has not. They're contemplating putting their own bill with a number of exceptions. Exceptions, before we talk about exceptions, there's an unwillingness to supposedly negotiate. The governor has said he's open to negotiation. The Assembly is saying, fine, negotiate, yet they have put nothing on the table. They've offered nothing. The Senate majority is saying, pass the governor's bill or nothing at all. Well, that's an easy thing for them to say. My argument, let's go to the table. Let's see what the Democrats in the Assembly offer, and then we can have a discussion.
Doesn't the Speaker have a bill?
It's the governor's bill.
It's the governor's bill.
It's the governor's bill. He's sponsoring the governor's bill, but he hasn't let it out. They want to change it. The tax cap is the only mechanism that will force these players to the table. Now, passing a tax cap is the easy part. The Senate's already done it. I eagerly look forward to the opportunity to pass it. But quite frankly, Mike, the reason both sides don't want to pass it, which is the kind of behind the scenes, the inside the locker room type of talk, is because making it work is hard. It will be very hard. It's going to force a discussion of issues that either side wants to talk about, neither side wants to talk about. That's when you have what I call your Wisconsin moment. It's going to be dramatic change, because if we don't have very real change, and in some ways some dramatic change, we are on a path to fiscal disaster.
School voters, school district voters will be voting this week as we tape this program on their school budgets. When you consider that there were such cuts in state aid to education this year, there's one revenue stream for school districts to consider, and then there's the other, which is their property tax. So here are school districts right now with two main revenue streams, and others to boot, but two main revenue streams. How do you put in a property tax cap on a school district if the state's got part of the control over what their revenues are?
Well, very simply, the state has to change the way it does business. The business model in this state is broken. You have to put pension reform on the table. You have to put the issue, in other states. Look, the state, the county, the town, they are the employers. Massachusetts, for example, it started in Wisconsin, later it went to Ohio. Now the state of Massachusetts, their House of Representatives passed a bill to restrict collective bargaining as it relates to health care. The copay, the percentage that pays. You have to do that. You have to do that. We are the employer. You go to the private sector and you go for a job interview and they make you an offer. You don't say, well, what am I going to pay on my health care? Or what is the contribution percentage? Or what's the copay? And if you don't like it, you don't say, well, let's negotiate. No, that's what it is. That's what the state of Massachusetts, Ohio, Wisconsin, we're going to have to do that as well. This is the plan. This is the copay. This is the contribution percentage for single, for family. You can't collectively bargain this anymore. There is nothing that the state, county, township can put on the table to get something back. We have to, quite frankly, the state has to say, the employer, who is the boss here. And you can collectively bargain other things, but you're going to have to put certain limitations here. It's inevitable. They don't want to do it here in New York. Pension reform. You want to do pension reform for new hires? That's all well and good. That's a must. That will happen. But you have to go a step farther. What I propose, get the politicians and the political appointees out of the defined benefit system. Immediate savings. It stops pension spiking. It makes patronage less attractive. And it creates an environment that removes that incentive for longevity for elected officials, which means they take the path of least resistance so they don't risk losing an election, because if they lose an election, they're out of the pension system. The pension, I have always argued, is the root cause of our problem here. There's no incentive to be fiscally responsible. The reason is the defined benefit pension and the value of it at the end of the rainbow. And it's why elected officials, when they leave office, or if they're term limited out, or even if sometimes if they're defeated, they navigate the political patronage system. People think they've solved the problem with term limits, that they're out of government. No, they're out of elected office. They remain in government, navigating the salary scale up the pension system. And we're paying for it.
We're out of time here today, but you're right. It sounds as if you make the change and put in the property tax cap, Albany needs to rethink an awful lot of how the rest of the state works.
It will require a revamping of the business model in the public sector, which has been long overdue. Neither majority wants to do that. There's a lack of leadership up here. It's both houses and it's both parties.
Mike Fitzpatrick, thank you for joining us for our program today. We want to thank you folks too for spending your time as well. We'll hope to see you soon for our next edition of Assembly Calendar.